It has been just over a year since the election of Donald J. Trump forced the political establishment to reconsider how it does business, and in turn upended many of the news media's rhythms.
Mr. Trump is not a 9-to-5 president, and the way he works has complicated the way he is governed. This is especially true at night.
Missiles fly, the staff is shaken up, policy is announced.
The tweets never stop.
They can be deadly serious, an attack on Syria's chemical weapons capability, or unintentionally funny, go fefe.
On the front lines at the New York Times after the usual working hours have been Laura Jakes, who until last month was the night editor for the Washington Bureau, and Steve Kenney, who runs the newsroom at night in New York.
Jakes, a former correspondent for the Associated Press who came to the Times from Foreign Policy magazine, joined the Washington Bureau the same week that Mr. Trump was inaugurated.
Her entire experience at the Times has been defined by the Trump administration.
Mr. Kenney has been the night editor in New York for almost 3 years, and for 2 years before that was night editor in Washington.
Here is their discussion about how year one of the Trump era has affected their jobs on the night shift.
Continue reading the main story.
Times Insider.
Welcome to the newsroom.
What we're reading.
December 6th.
The op-ed pages explain.
December 3rd.
What we're reading.
December 1st. Live event, play table tennis with the Times. December 1st.
Clearing the air on climate education, a reporter returns to the scene of her story.
November 29th.
See more.
Q, what was that first month like, especially for a newcomer to the Times?
Jakes, it was exciting.
And exhausting. And exciting.
Mostly it seemed like jumping on a speeding treadmill as it was cranking into high gear.
The hardest part was the unpredictability, and how to triage so much incoming news at once.
It's fairly normal for an avalanche of executive orders to be issued and staff nominations to be launched in the first days of a presidential administration. I think we were all prepared for that.
What was surprising, to me at least, was how much was undone in that first month, Mr. Trump's travel ban order being blocked and the National Security Advisor Michael T. Flynn's forced resignation immediately come to mind.
Mr. Flynn's mid-February departure was particularly challenging because it came between print editions.
In other words, once we confirmed it had happened, we had to rush it online to preserve the scoop and at the same time rip up the front page on an extremely tight deadline and late at night.
That was a totally new experience for me, trying to simultaneously feed both the web and the paper, which each have specific and slightly differing needs.
I'd previously worked for a newspaper, a wire service and a website, but this required using the skills from each of those platforms at once.
That sort of set my learning curve at the Times.
Mr. Kinney, it was like a serious jolt of caffeine.
The New York night crew is always running and gunning, and I took this job just as the 2016 race was heating up. So I had been through almost 2 years of primaries and debates and then the rollicking general election.
There were a lot of long shifts, beginning at 3 p.m. and ending at 3 a.m.
But I expected things to settle down after the inauguration.
That didn't happen.
Why?
Well, Mr. Trump seems to like working long hours. If he's tweeting policy at 11:30 p.m., we have to cover it.
He can tweet and sign off, but those 140 to 280 characters may keep reporters and editors here in New York and in Washington busy for hours. Everyone has lost a lot of sleep.
And then, of course, the New York night desk has to cover news from the rest of the world, too.